Now, I think by now a lot of players are fairly aware about my feelings regarding capital ships, but I think it is worth spending a brief moment of time to talk about why I feel like that about capital ships. Because on Reddit, in my comment section, even on Discord, I still have the same bad faith actors telling people that I only talk about capital ships the way I do because I don't like them, because I would rather be flying something else. And whilst that is true, I don't enjoy flying capitals. I would rather be flying small ships. That does not in any way negate my issues with capitals. This is nothing about personal opinion and more about general game design and just fact. So let's get into it. The biggest issue with Eve Echoes right now on a full meta level, sort of stepping backwards and looking at everything on a full macro level, is the fact that our player base has been dwindling since launch. Now, a player base dwindling since launch is nothing new. That tends to be the case with pretty much every single game ever. People get excited by the new shiny thing, they download, they start playing, and for a couple of months those people stick around and give it a good old try, only to then decide, this game isn't for me, or just end up moving on to the next big shiny thing. So there is always going to be a decline from launch as a game grows, but the players who do stick around are the dedicated old few. Now, here we are, coming up to 3 years into Eve Echoes, and a lot of those old guard are gone. There are numerous reasons we could talk about here about why that is, about why some of those people have left, and the main reasons are way too varied to go into. That in itself isn't such a huge problem. You will often find that people just get tired of playing the same game for year in, year out, and do just drift and move into other things. People's tastes and what they want to do in their spare time does change. The trouble that Eve Echoes has is we don't have many new players coming in to replace them. We've got the old players leaving, and new players are not replacing them. Imagine, if you will, a bathtub with the plug out. You start off with a game that leaves the bath pretty much half full. You take the plug out and some of those players are dropping off, but as long as the tap is flowing and enough people are joining, the water level stays about the same, right? What we have is that the water level is basically a trickle, and the hole at the bottom of the bath is a wide, gaping chasm. So, question number one would be, why are new players not sticking around? And capitals are kind of to blame for this, along with a few other factors as well. If you look at the tech trees early on, we can talk basically up to about Tech 6 here, because Tech 6 is the kind of tech level you can aim to reach in the first week to the first month, depending on if you're paying for a mega, and yeah, other like factors regarding daily login rewards and things like that. But Tech 6 is pretty quick and easy to reach. We can actually push this to Tech 7 to talk about how far you can go completely free, but we'll come to that in a moment. So first of all, new players join the game and they start off with some cool ships, using the Minmatar tree for example, like the Slasher and the overly iconic Rifter. This is still, to me, an absolute travesty that this doesn't have a better version. It is the most iconic vessel in EVE, and as a Tech 2 ship, you are done with it in the first half an hour. By the time you've moved on to the Breacher, the Probe, and then you hit Tech 4, and you're looking at things like the Slasher 2, which is just flat out better than the Rifter in every single way. Of course, you're also flying destroyers by that point. You should have a Thrasher. The Rifter's long gone. Now, in those first couple of days, everything is shiny and new. You're getting new ships dropped on you like candy. You're probably trying numerous different things out, flying around different areas. The combat isn't particularly stale to you at this point. But by the time you're hitting tech level 6, that combat's getting pretty stale. It's the same PvE. Warp to this system, jump into the anomaly, shoot everything, move on. It's literally just that. And yeah, okay, we're going to be comparing a lot to EVE Online here. I'm not trying to turn Echoes into EVE Online. I'm more using it as an example because it is the closest thing we have that is working, that isn't in decline because new players are still joining. Here in EVE Echoes, there just isn't much for new players to do if you're Tech 6 or lower. You're basically going to be jumping in and out of anomalies, getting a meagre pittance of ISK income that is of course relative to your level. I understand that, I'm not suggesting we need more money, but people get bored of it really, really quickly. And you can say, hey, come join a nullsec alliance. And yeah, that is one way to look into it. And if those players do go and join a nullsec alliance, what do they really have there? The same ratting experience over and over again. Oh, but they can do PvP. Can they? Can they really? What are their actual options for PvP vessels at this point in time? They've basically got things like, say, the Stabber Fleet issue, which is a very good ship, but problematic in the fact that it uses advanced skills which require you to have Omega. A lot of new players don't want to trump up for the Omega just yet because they're not absolutely committed to the game yet. They don't want to spend because they're not sure that this is the game for them. That means basically they're going to be flying something like the Rupture or the Moa. And in PvP, I don't see that as being a great option for them. The destroyers just aren't really good enough at that tech level, and the frigates you have access to, same thing. You are just going to get ripped apart by everyone else. And why are you going to get ripped apart by everyone else? Because all the people at Tech 10 have access to things like the Slasher 2 Interceptor. They've got access to things like battleships, and that's a really bad example, like the Typhoon 2. They are flying around in capitals, and I'm sorry, there is no one who is flying around at Tech Level 6 or Tech Level 7 using a breach or assault and getting good kills. Again, these ships all use advanced skills, which they probably don't have access to, and in addition to that, even at Tech 7, your skills are very limited. You don't have the capabilities that other people have. You can sit there and say to me, oh, well, okay, they've only got access to frigates, destroyers, and cruisers, but they could do faction war games, right? Yeah, they could. But faction war games doesn't really make much ISK. The queue times are horrendous, and again, if you've only got basic or advanced skills and you're going up against a group of players all with expert level skills, it's just a bad time. There is no exciting, engaging content for lower tier players. Compounded onto this, they are simply looking at the fact that, well, okay, I've got my Slasher 2. I really like this ship. I like its playstyle. If I want to get to the Slasher Interceptor, that's a few months of me paying for the Omega. And if I want to be really competitive and fly a Slasher 2 Interceptor, for example, that's probably up to a year out, depending on which type of Omega I get and how dedicated I am to logging in every day to get all of the login rewards, etc. The simple fact is that if you're a new player playing this game and you see that Tech 10 is basically where all the fun is, what the game is essentially saying to you is you need to be paying for a subscription for anywhere between 9 to 12 months before you can have fun. Now imagine that. Just imagine if I were to put a video up on this channel and said, hey, I'm really enjoying this game, like I'm really enjoying World of Warcraft right now. I'm really enjoying this game, but if you want to come have fun with me, you are going to have to spend $15 a month for the next 10 months. Then you can join me. How many of you would actually join me on that in that game? I would suggest very few of you would, because that's a big commitment. You're asking someone to part with $150 and wait 10 months. Or, if they want to push it up further, yes, you can buy skill points in the game. There are things that can push you up that little bit faster. Then you're asking them to spend $500 and wait 5 months, which is still freaking ludicrous. This tech tree is by far the single worst thing in Echoes right now. This is what's killing the game, because new players joining look at it and go, well, that's just bullcrap. I don't want to wait that long to be able to have fun. And the fact is that every single ship is just flat out better when you go up the tech tree. There is no reason ever to fly a Slasher Interceptor if you can fly a Slasher 2 Interceptor other than the cost. Genuinely, in the same situations, they are, the Slasher 2 Interceptor is just better. Same with like the Tornado, Tornado 2, or Tornado 3. The Tornado 3 is just better. It's the same ship, more expensive, with better stats. And now we add on to this the fact that NetEase is currently pushing and pushing and pushing everyone to be into capitals. They are adding new capital ships, new capital weapons, new capital nanocores, and we'll talk about why that is in just a moment. But it means that if you want to fly anything other than capitals, you're kind of starved for content. Yes, the same argument always comes out. Oh, but every PvP fleet needs frigates. Yeah, they need a handful of frigates. Once you've got 10 dedicated frigate pilots, your alliance is going to be much happier if they've got more people firing the big guns. Because if they've got 30 capitals and you've got 29 capitals, they have an advantage. Numbers are a big thing in Echoes. And when everyone's flying capitals, you need those numbers to count. 29 capitals in a battleship does not make the same amount of return fire as 30 capitals does. And so that's the situation we have going on here. And these ships, don't kid yourself, are expensive. Yes, I know, I get arguments all the time from people going, oh, well, actually, I've seen lots of people buying capitals legitimately just using in-game funding. My first question is, how can you actually prove that? It's very easy for me to just sit online all day, all night, just do some exploration and say, oh yeah, I got really lucky. Look, I've made several billion ISK in the past week. Meanwhile, I'm swiping my credit card and selling Plex. You can't tell that. You can't tell how I actually got that ISK. So when you come to me and say, oh, I know players who are doing it legitimately. No, you know players who are claiming to do it legitimately, and I'm sure some of them are. But the vast majority, I am certain, I have spoken to enough people that your anecdotal evidence just doesn't cover it. One of the big advantages of being one of the top content creators for Eve Echoes is I have a lot of people contacting me all the time. I've done videos where you can see my Discord and people are like, oh my god, Ben, clear your notifications. Yeah, because that's how many I get frequently. Ultimately, yeah, the vast majority of players are paying to get into capitals. That's how they're doing it. And once they're there, what are you going to do? Do you just want a blue nanocore or do you want the purple ones? And how much do purple nanocores cost during these events? How much were they during the CyberX? Yeah, work that out for a second, and then compare how much a nanocore is for a capital ship compared to how it is for a frigate or a cruiser. Do you see the trend going on here? Essentially, when something like CyberX or Neon Rain or all of these illusory ghost events start happening, netties are banking on enough people being in capitals that they are willing to drop the big money. We are in a situation in Echoes now where essentially you are being pushed and pushed by the game design to fly the bigger ships. And those bigger ships just coincidentally happen to inspire more purchases. Now, to use kind of an Apex Legends analogy for a second here, or PUBG or Fortnite or any of these things, what we have is something that started off as a huge community that were just happy to pay the monthly subscription, buy a few skins here and there, and things were going pretty great with that. As the community is dying for all of these various reasons, the community is getting smaller and smaller, like the ring in a battle royale, and the people in that ring are being pushed harder and harder. It's not combat they're being pushed harder and harder, it's spending they're being pushed harder and harder into. And again, I know what you're going to say, oh, but Benzie, we've had a whole fleet of capitals all with blue nanocores, and we've taken out fleets of people in capitals with purple nanocores. Yeah, of course you have, because that kind of stuff does happen all the time. The simple fact is those people still have a significant advantage. A fully upgraded purple nanocore and a fully upgraded implant on a dreadnought, for example, is going to create a significantly more potent ship. Yes, you can never account for how stupid a pilot might be, but the simple fact is, if I'm running something like a Naglfar or heck, even like a Revelation. Is it Revelation? It is Revelation. I had a doubt there for the second. If I'm running a Revelation and I've got a fully leveled up golden implant and I've got a purple nanocore that I have pumped money into and I'm right at the bottom with all of its stat bonuses, look at those two ships side by side and tell me which one is, likely to win. Yeah, okay, if the purple nanocore and golden implant is piloted by an absolute, someone who's got 2 brain cells competing for 3rd place, then yeah, okay, fine, I get it. The simple fact is that, the statistics don't go with that. Like, if you were a betting man, a gambling man, the odds are in the favor of the person who has swiped their credit card more and more. I don't mind swiping. I don't mind people paying money for things. Heck, I've sat there and I've had that argument with people before that, yeah, okay, I used to have to grind to get my legendaries. This guy just swiped a credit card for it. Yeah, because that guy is grinding a day job instead. While you're at home doing your daily grind, he's sitting at wherever in his office doing a daily grind that gives him some income that he can do that with as well. Also, money supports the game. The simple point is there's no way to get those through gameplay. There's no meaningful way to do any of this stuff. You can't realistically grind up a level, a max level implant with just gameplay. You are going to be swiping your credit card for that at one point or other, and the people who do it are at a major advantage, right? So this brings us then to things like Titans, right? Because at the moment, we're only on standard capitals. What happens when we get Titans? Well, look at the difference in cost between a nanocore for a battleship, a nanocore for a capital, and heck, a nanocore for a battlecruiser. Look at how that curve goes, right? Now extrapolate that data outwards and think about how much a Titan nanocore is actually going to cost. And we don't need Titans. We simply do not need Titans. There is no real need for that, on any level. The content is not there for Titans. Yes, if you add Titans, suddenly you need your own Titans to counter other people's Titans, but that kind of means that the content is only created by the fact that they've been added to the game. If you don't add them, you could be making other content elsewhere, and this brings me to my next point. Well, all of that effort that's been put adding content for capitals could have been put adding content at the lower tiers for new players to actually stick around. To mention EVE Online for a moment, I started playing EVE Online again earlier last year. I created a whole new account because I wanted it to have the Captain Benzie name, and basically, I was running Abyssal Dead Spaces in the first day. Like, literally, I've done a video on my Tristan running Abyssal Dead Spaces on day one. I was doing that. I also had, I could go into different, agent missions, which are varied. It's not just fly to A, kill everything, fly to B. There were all kinds of different missions going on there. There's full-on storyline that you're getting engaged with. I started the Sisters of Eve epic arc. I could go exploring, I could go mining properly, and the mining stuff that I was earning, I could sell on the market and actually make money from, which you can't as new players. And I'm not going to go into industry woes at this point in time, other than to say, please stop telling me insurance is the problem. How many videos do I have to put out telling you that insurance is not the main problem in the game right now for people to actually believe that? Simple logic experiment. If you cut insurance out of the game completely, we would still be in the same situation we are. The problem is simply infinite income of ores and limited demand for them. So we have infinite supply, limited demand. That is always going to be a problem. And when netties turn around and say, hey, we're going to add new capital ships and that's going to be the ore sink, well, that doesn't really work because people buy their capitals and that's it. They only really need the one. After that, insurance kind of covers the rest. And oh, there we go, just remove insurance. Yeah, but then people aren't going to undock their capitals because they've got to do the full grind all over again. And then they're just going to buy a capital and then just not bother to PvP with it because it's too damn expensive to replace. Do you see the problem when it comes to using a single time purchase as an ore sink? We needed something meaningful like ammunition being linked to ore. We needed something like implants perhaps consuming ore. We needed all kinds of ways to consume ore at a base level. We need ways for industrialists to be competitive when they start the game. No one, again, wants to sit there and go, oh, I really like the concept of mining and shipbuilding, but I'm unable to make a profit because my early ventures just do not make enough ore per hour to even sell. Like, literally, if I put that on the market, my stuff doesn't sell because there are people who are able to produce much, much more, much cheaper, much faster. Compare like a venture to a coveter 2, just the income difference between those is frankly insane. Look at the difference between, say, someone mining in a venture with basic skills in EVE Online, someone looking at mining with a venture with full-on skills, and then look at the stripped miners as well. They are much closer together, which allows those newer players to be competitive, which means they enjoy the game more and they stick around. People who are building ships with basic skills are still able to sell them. Here, if you're a Tech 5 player and you're looking to build Tech 5 ships, who are you selling them to? Who are you actually selling those to? Because no one's buying them. Because there just aren't enough Tech 5 players around who are actually buying this crap. Because there's no need for it. Almost everyone's Tech 10 already, right? So why are they buying Tech 5 ships? They're not. There are very few ships at lower tiers that actually sell. Again, explicit examples like the Stabber Fleet issue being a key one, and some of the other early ships that still do get some use in PvP. We have just this situation where the early game is just horrendous to new players. Everything is being geared towards top tier players. That is therefore stopping new blood coming into the game. And what are NetEase doing about this? Absolutely nothing. We've seen dev Q&A week in, week out, people asking the same questions. Exploration could be a really good thing for new players. We're doing nothing with it. Faction war games could be a really interesting start if you retooled it. We're doing nothing with it. What are you adding to the game? New capital ships. How long is it going to be before we get Titans? And then what are new players going to be looking forward to? Still nothing. The game is dying. The new players are not coming in. The old players are leaving. And all you are doing is catering for an ever-shrinking group of players, because those players, that shrinking group of players, are paying more and more and more month in, month out. Instead of like having 10,000 people paying $5 to $15 a month, you've now got 100 people paying $1,500 a month. And this is the status quo. This is who NetEase are now chasing. And it's not sustainable. It is not sustainable. And ultimately, the smaller that group is, the more that every single pilot who leaves hurts that group. Again, if you've got 1 million players and one leaves, that's almost nothing. If you've got 1,000 players and one leaves, that is 0.1% of your entire population. If you've got 100 players and one leaves, that's an entire percentile of your population gone. And if you are relying on those players, if you're sitting there with a group, and the numbers are obviously completely off here, I'm just talking mathematically as an example, if you're looking at a situation where you've shrunk your community to such a small point, there are literally 1,000 people playing, and each of them are propping up the game by paying $1,000 a month towards it, when one of them leaves, that's literally $1,000 a month gone off your top line. And those other players now need to pick up the slack, or the game is just losing money. And so therefore, those other players have to be paying more each month. And that's what NetEase are doing. They are tightening the screws on an ever smaller group. If we want to fix this, we need to have meaningful content for new players. We need exploration to actually be useful, to be fun, to be engaging. We need to revamp the entire PvE system so it's not the same bloody encounters over and over and over again. There needs to be variety in the encounters, and this is all stuff NetEase could have done. EVE Online has it as the blueprint. You can jump into an encounter there that is destroy everything. You can then do another encounter that's keep going around until you spot this enemy and try and lock it down until Concord arrive and take it off your hands. It can be destroy this base. Like, there's a whole load of enemies around, you can shoot them, or you can just run in, nuke the base and flee to safety quickly, and that will complete the mission. It can be things like you need to keep shooting stuff until the big guy appears, and again, do you bother to kill everyone, or do you just then focus the big guy and run to safety before all the little guys finally reach you? Abyssal dead spaces. You can start off with those tranquils that are still going to be challenging for a new player, but they earn decent ISK, high risk, high reward, and as you earn those rewards, you upgrade your ship into something else, going from a Tristan to a Worm, doing higher level dead spaces until eventually, again, the Worm is no longer capable of doing those. You now upgrade into a healer, and off you go with that. It is this full-on system of progression, but because the PvE is meaningful in those situations, oh, I've got different enemies, that means I need to have a different approach. This room has a tower in it that I need to steer clear of. There's a firestorm over there that's going to give me this buff with this disadvantage if I fly through it. When is the ideal moment to do that? These are complex situations. There is no easy fix to this, and at this point in the development cycle, NetEase seem only to be concerned about easy fixes. They could have done ammunition, but it would have been complex, and that could have fixed a lot of the problems with industry, but it's a complex situation. They just want to add more big ships. They could actually revamp exploration to make it engaging for people. Add the minigame. They promised that the minigame was coming when they first launched exploration. They said, we've not got the minigame for now, but it's coming later. We're almost a year and a half since exploration launched now, and still nothing, no sign of it, and it's actually gone from coming soon to it's not on the plan anymore. So There's no engaging thing there. They could have done this, but they haven't. They are instead focused on capitals. They could have been adding new encounters, but they aren't. They're adding new capital ships. All they care about right now is capitals, whilst everything else is burning. The 1% is all that matters to NetEase, because that 1% is paying through the nose to support the lifestyle that NetEase is telling you is the only way to play this game. Yes, I'm sure some of you have fun in small ships. I'm sure some of you have found ways to kick that trend and say to NetEase, no, I'm not flying a capital, screw you, I'm going to find ways to have fun with small ships. The trouble is, you guys are the minority. The majority of players are being pushed closer and closer towards that singularity that NetEase wants everyone to be, and new players look at this, they see everything with fresh eyes because they don't have the sunk cost fallacy. They're not looking at this game and saying, well, I'm going to stick around because I've already paid X, Y, and Z into it. I'm just going to do what NetEase want me to, and hopefully they'll fix it at some point because I've already dedicated so much of my life to this game. They're new players. They're looking at it from the outside and going, this is absolute bullshit and I want no part of it, and then they're uninstalling and moving away from a game they could love, but NetEase is running into the ground in the sake of a quick buck. And that's where we're at. Why am I not making content for this? Because what content is there for me to make that isn't me bitching and moaning like this and just going on about the same problems? Hopefully this will give you some understanding on why I'm not making as much Echoes content, why I'm not logging in as much as I used to be. I love this game dearly. I love the community dearly. I just don't find the game fun because the content I'm making isn't relevant to what I enjoy. I could do a video about Dormant Realms, but I'm going to sit there, and if I have to put on a positive face for Dormant Realms, it's going to feel fake and forced because I hate them. I absolutely hate Dormant Realms simply because of what they could have been and what they are instead. I could do a video about implants, but I don't have the money to fully max one out. And again, I hate implants, so it would feel forced. I've done the Academy videos teaching you the basics of these things, but I'm not going to sit there and do a video on my favourite implant because I don't have one. I'm not going to do a video on, how much fun I'm having in Dormant Realms because I'm not. And that's the problem I have in regards to content here. If NetEase adds something really cool to the game, absolutely, I'm going to be in there making content and going, hey guys, I'm having fun, here's how you can too. As Otto Mechanic said, that is what Captain Benzie is all about, and that is what I will always be all about. Here's how I'm having fun, here's how you can too. Hopefully some of you guys will enjoy the other videos I'm putting out, and hopefully Echoes can still turn it around. There is the possibility. It just seems unlikely right now because NetEase are still getting the payments they need from an ever-shrinking group that they can tighten the screws on. Anyway, folks, those are my thoughts and opinions. I would love to hear yours in the comment section down below. Please, let's have an adult conversation about this kind of stuff. I don't want any of that bullshit that I keep getting from people of, oh, you only hate capitals because you don't like flying them. No, I hate capitals because of what they're doing to the game. I hate NetEase and their approach to all of this because of what it is doing to what could otherwise be one of the greatest games ever made. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.